Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Now, last slide that we saw, we were speaking majorly about communication skills, types of communication skills, verbal types, non-verbal types. We also discuss a lot about how to overcome the barriers of communication and all of that. But then, what are the major 7 formulas or principles of communication skills that we need to remember? Because without that, I think we will not be able to understand how well can we communicate. So the 7 C's of communications that we are going to talk in this video are about corrections, completeness, concreteness, conscience, consideration, courteous, and clear. So these are the complete 7 C's of our communication skills. Well, hello friends. Today we are going to discuss on a very important subject which is called 7 C's of communication. I think without understanding how majorly are we supposed to focus on our principles of communication, we will not be able to understand how well can we talk. So the slide that you see behind me talks about 7 C's of communication, where you see all the different principles starting with C, and so it's called 7 C's of communication. So first, let's start with clear. So clear, correct, complete, concrete, conscience, consideration, courteous are the 7 different principles most importantly used for communicating effectively. Let's go through the first one step by step and let's see how better can we all be in terms of communication skills. Clarity. So when we talk about clarity, it completely implies on the emphasizing on a specific message or a specific goal at that particular point of time, rather than trying to achieve too much at once. So friends, we don't need to run behind a lot of things, multiple things running here and there all the time, because this will not allow us to fully focus and concentrate on something one, which would leave our messages completely unclear. Clarity in communications has such features which are, it makes understanding completely easy. Of course, that's logical. So if you talk clearly, it is very simple for that person to understand what really you mean to say or what really you mean to communicate. It makes our thoughts clearer to the person according to his thoughts, and then definitely we get into better negotiation skills. A complete clarity on thoughts and ideas which enhances the messages or the meaning of our messages. So we have a clear idea or a clear picture about these messages or thoughts or ideas getting conveyed with a matter of fact or a matter of goal or an opinion or whatever. So our ideas get completely clear in that person's mind, and there is a one union mindset from both the sides. Clear messages makes use of exact, appropriate, and concrete words. Now, these are not vague messages. These are something which is exact, appropriate, and concrete. Yes, friends, so we have to be very clear while we are communicating. So out of the 7, we've completed one principle now. Let's see the other principle, what that says. Correctness. So we all know by the word correctness what it means. It simply means that be correct on your communication. So basically what we mean to say by correctness is ethically. You have to ethically mean what you say. You can't say something and do something else. That's not happening. So use the right way and level of language according to the audience benefit. It's always vice versa. It's always that you have to work for the audience according to their requirement. It's very important to understand the requirements first, and only then you will be able to produce what they really want. Every time it's customization. You have to customize to their requirements. And so we have to use the right way and the right level of language according to their requirements, according to the audience benefit, which benefit them 100%. Check accuracy of facts, figures, and words that you have used. It's very important to have check list in front of you, whether have you understood their requirement, whether you have understood the facts, what facts are we supposed to work on, we've understood the words that we've spoken, and we've also understood what we have to use. So after having a checklist of all these, only then can you be the correct person with a correctness in the communication skills. Maintain acceptable writing mechanism. For example, correct sentence level. So we cannot be talking to a manager of the company or the CEO of the company the way we talk to the subordinates. Or we cannot be talking to the subordinates of the company the way we speak to the manager. It's very important to understand your level where you need to be more focused. What kind of mechanism are you going to put in to understand the level of that person or the company or the organization or the team that you've been communicating to? So it's very important to have correct sentence correction level in whatever you say. So these are certain tips to correct you on your communication wherever you go according to the level of the people or the audience that you know. The next third principle of the communication is completeness. So when I say completeness, it always comes into your mind that I have spoken the complete sentence. So what another completeness are we talking about? What more? So let's see what more can we do. The message must be complete, first of all, which of course we all understand, we all do it. Some people have the habit of leaving it halfly because they understand that when we say a message and we feel that it's complete, but some people leave it half because they feel or they have an assumption that the person has understood the half a message, maybe because of his expression or maybe because the tone of his language or maybe because that person's confidence. But friends, we do not have to unclearly, unblindly assume things. We have to put forth the complete message. Only then our complete communication is in the place. It should convey all facts which are required by the audience. Again, this is completely focused on audience requirement. If the facts are not conveyed, then your message is half anyway. The sender of the message must take into consideration the receiver. It's not about me giving you something, it's about your needs that I have to fulfill, which is very important for a sender to understand that what a receiver exactly wants and should communicate all the facts and figures related to that message. Unless and until we do not know what facts are we supposed to work upon, we will never be able to have this principle in our communication, which is completeness. Friends, we have to understand what level of requirement is there with the audience. Only then we'll be able to cope up with them. These were the three most important beginners of the principles of communication. Let's see what next we have. The next and the fourth most important principle of communication is concreteness. Now, when we say concrete, you immediately understand that we are talking about something like a wall, which is very, very concrete. No one can shake it, move it, break it. So this is what we mean by concreteness, even in our communication sense. So being definite or vivid or completely specific, rather than being vague, obscure, and general, leads to correctness to the message. So friends, we are not supposed to have anything which is not definite. We have to be definite, vivid, and specific about our communication. At the same time, vague and obscure and general kind of messages leads to unconcreteness in our entire communication skills. So it's very important, friends, to understand whether what do we want, have we put it the right way, in a specific way, in a concrete manner. While composing concreteness in messages, we have to bear certain points in mind. What are these? Number one, use specific facts and figures. We have to be on the point. We cannot go haywire. So if they have asked something, we have to say only those specific facts and not beat around the bush. Number two, put actions into your verbs. The verbs are not only to be there. The verbs are there for the activity, for the actions to get going. So we have to see to it that we put our actions into the verbs. Choose vivid, image-building words. Now, friends, we all know that images work very well when we try to communicate. More than what we try to say, more than that, the images work very well for us. Definitely, we can portray our entire communication or the entire moment of that kind of communication where we can put an image-building word which becomes easy for the audience to understand what we really are supposed to say. So it's completely depending on how we portray it or how we put up an image to our complete communication. There are certain benefits. Now, when I say why we have to follow certain things into which is like concrete in our communication. So why? So a lot of advantage and benefits of correctness, using the correct words, correctness or concreteness in our communication the entire throughout the meeting or throughout the session. Let's go through certain benefits of concreteness. Number one, concreteness reinforces on confidence. Imagine when you are so specific about your words, your confidence is definitely high. It helps you to boost up your morale so much that you motivate not only yourself but the other person there. And then it is a two-way communication which is amazingly works well with a lot of productivity in your business, in your life, in your career, professionalism, XYZ. Number two, it supports with specific facts and figures. Here we are like talking like an agreement that we are not moving on our words or even we are not shifting with our ideas. So that's like concrete. So that's one second benefit where neither you or neither that other person can get into any commitment which is not precise. Number three, it makes use of words that are clear and that builds up the reputation. So the words which are clear, understood, and very specific also help us to build a reputation. So we ourselves, being confident, also have a reputation that yes, this person has achieved what he's spoken. So we've brought our words into action and they're not just verbs, right? The fourth one, it creates positive and pleasure affect and reader. Of course, if we are confident, if we are so concrete, if we have now built up a reputation, then definitely we sound completely positive and there is a pleasure effect on the reader. So there is a pleasure when a person reads our mind. There's a pleasure when we meet a lot of people. And always, if you listen, they will say that it's a pleasure meeting you. That's because you've been really concrete and you've followed your principles of communication. Only then that person feels pleasure talking to you. Let's see, this was the fourth principle of our communication. Let's see what next we have. The next principle that we talk about is consciousness, or you can say consciousness. So what do you mean by conscious? Of course, we all know the word conscious is, if you heard about inner conscious or subconscious, so these are our minds, complete set of minds which allow us to understand whether you're conscious about a certain thing, whether you understand that certain thing so well that now you can ethically work on it. Unconsciousness is something that you do not understand. It's out of your brains, it's out of your thoughts, and you're not conscious of what is going around. That's unconsciousness. So let's focus on consciousness because that's the major principle of communication. So consciousness allows us to be conscious in our mind and our thoughts completely for us to understand what kind of message should we communicate, and keeping the other person's feeling in mind. So there are a lot of benefits of consciousness or conscious communication, which is it's time saving and cost saving. Of course, if you are conscious on what you're saying, it saves a lot of time because you don't have to then explain it again and again. At the same time, it's cost saving because if you do not have to say the same thing again, it also saves your cost. The second is underlines and highlights. We are very specific on what do we have to say. So there is a highlight and there is underline of every specific para or every specific session that we are supposed to communicate. It has short and essential messages. So when we say short and essential messages, it means that we are more specific to what we're supposed to say. Instead of giving long lectures the whole day, we can actually cut short them, make very precise messages where we come to know what exactly is essential for our message, and it's also shorter now. Appealing and comprehensible. Now when we say appealing, it definitely puts a very positive thought in front of our audience where they know that it was quite satisfactory, it was appealing, it was a kind of yes and a win-win situation for both of you all. Comprehensible is definitely when we are going to a certain agreement or a certain note, we both are on the same page. So it's not like you win, I lose, or I win, you lose. It's kind of a win-win situation. This is amazing when we talk about negotiation skills. Now, these principles are very important when we have to negotiate with someone and we have to come to a certain conclusion. The other is non-repetitive in nature. So once it's done, it's done. We are not repeating it again and again. So the message is clear, once for all, concrete, and then it's done, keeping everyone's viewpoint together. So this was the consciousness communication principle. Let's see what next do we have. The next principle is consideration. Now, what do you mean by consideration? Do you consider me? Yes, you do. That's why we are looking at this video. So consideration implies stepping into shoes of others. Imagine and thinking the way others think. Trying to step into someone's shoes to understand what that person thinks and wants from us. This is the time where we will never be able to go wrong, because here we are actually trying to be someone else. We are trying to understand the facts and matters not the way we want, but the way that other person wants. Effective communication must take the audience into consideration. Again, everywhere you go, I'll be repeating the same thing. It's not for us ourselves that we are communicating. It's for the audience that we are communicating. It's for the other people that we are communicating. Wherever you go in any walks of your life. Right? So the audience viewpoints, background, mindset, education level, etc. Everything has to be considered. I cannot be talking to my baby the way I talk to my father. There's a huge difference between the level and I have to cope up to both the levels. So imagine, I'm a different personality with my daughter and I'm a different personality with my father. I am a mother to my daughter, I am a daughter to my father. So this shows that I have to consider every personality, shape up my personality into that particular way, step into each one's shoes to understand what is to be considered, and then have a consideration on my communication and then communicate. We have to make an attempt to envisage your audience, their requirements, emotions as well as problems. Many people, not many, I mean all the people, even you, me, everyone, we all go through certain setbacks, certain happy emotions, certain sad emotions. So keeping everything into consideration, right from emotions to the problems of the people, and then trying to be considerate on our communication is very, very important and essential, because otherwise we will be screwing up with other people's morale, no matter how your morale is high. Only keeping up to our morale is not important. It's also important to keep up to people's morale and to have their motivation boosted up. So ensure that self-respect of the audience is maintained always and their emotions are definitely not harmed. That is the complete meaning of consideration of communication. This is the most important principle of communication. Even before we start our communication, we have to keep so many things in our mind. And friends, I'm sure now since we know it, we'll be able to do it better. Let's see what's next on our slide. The next principle is courtesy. Of course, with consideration, courtesy comes hand in hand. When you're considerate about a person, you're also courteous to that person. So courtesy in message implies the message should show the sender's expression as well as should respect the receiver. Here we are talking about two-way respect or two-way mutual understanding between the receiver and the sender, where now you are more courteous and polite and soft after understanding the emotions, the problems, the issues, and then coming to a consideration of communication. And now you're more precise of what really is the requirement. So here, when you put up your message, it is to be put up in a very polite and a courteous way. The sender of the message should be sincerely polite, judicious, reflective, and enthusiastic also. So polite, judicious, and reflective, yes, that's something that reflects your attitude or your personality towards that person, which will give a clear mindset through that person that yes, I'm talking to someone sensible. And then you have to also sound enthusiastic, because only being considerate would not work. Courtesy towards enthusiasm is also very important, friends, because otherwise there's no way where you can communicate with what facts exactly and what conclusion will you come out with. So enthusiasm is very, very important when we talk about courtesy. Courteous messages have certain features. Now let's go through what features does these courteous messages have, or do they show. Courtesy implies taking into consideration both viewpoints as well as feelings of the receiver and the message. Courteous messages are positive and focused at the audience. Very important. Even if there is a problem or a setback with the mindset of the audience or a particular person that we are talking to, we have to see to it that we deliver them a very positive message, very enthusiastic message, which leaves them with a very happy day or a very happy beginning or a starting of the day. At the same time, we are also focused at their requirements. We never have to go out of our focus and do anything at all. We have to understand what the people really, really want, and only then we have to talk about it. It makes use of terms showing respect for the receiver of the message. There has to be a respect when we talk. There has to be certain manners, certain etiquette, certain ethics. So respect is very important to be courteous. And definitely it is not at all biased. Bias is something where we have only one side, like a win situation from one side. That is not supposed to be done here. It's a win-win situation for both of us. Definitely not supposed to be biased at all. These were the 7 major principles of our communication, or you could say the 7 C's of our communication, which are very important to understand. Unless and until we do not understand how we can handle these principles, we will not be able to communicate effectively, no matter how efficient we are. So friends, this I think would help you in every walk of life, right from your personal to your professional to your office to your home, everywhere. We have to keep this we have to consider and we have to keep these 7 C's in mind. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and also stay tuned to Ikeda.